Hello, folks. Welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster. This is your host, Will Carey. I hope you're doing well. I appreciate you folks tuning in. Hope you're having a quality spooky season, as the kids call it. That's what October is nowadays. I hope you're having an excess of pumpkin spice and apple cider and cinnamony things, and that you are finding some joy. I am looking forward to breaking back my plaid shirts back out again. That is my kind of vibe, general vibe and aesthetic in the fall. I love listening to Hoodie Weather by the Wonder Years once it gets a little crisp. It's just generally like my vibe. Like fall to me is like I get very like nostalgic for like the crisp fall weather, or the smell of leaves, that smell the leaves give off when they change colors. It's just, I get very nostalgic for that time. I know everyone's excited for football season, and has been excited for football season, the playoffs. So much so that my friend, a joke in a recent show I did tech for about the Jets being bad didn't work because they're doing good, and I'm excited for you Jets fans. I don't know, as I'm recording this, NYCFC are still in the playoffs, having not played Montreal, so it might have gone great, and we might have been eliminated. I'm not sure, but check in with me in a week. We'll see how things are going, and I'm especially excited because, and I want to wish this is if you're listening to this the day it comes out, I want to wish a belated happy birthday to my darling wife Chelsea, who you have heard on the podcast. We were in Pennsylvania for my friend Logan's wedding this weekend. So in order to celebrate properly, we went early to see Harry Potter and the Cursed Child on Broadway. I was able to pull off a excellent birthday surprise that I was very happy about. And the play itself was very, very good. I think it told an excellent story that if you are a fan of the Harry Potter books and movies, you would enjoy. And from a technical and production standpoint, they did some amazingly fascinating technical work and movement work. I was quite enthralled through the entire show. And this is the new 3.5 hour see everything at once. I think in London it's still 2 parts. But it was truly a joyful night. And on a strange aside, and then we'll get into the show today, everybody that I've met, I happen to be friends with a lot of Harry Potter people. Everybody has sorted me into Hufflepuff. That's my house that they told me. So if you're listening to this and you know me personally, reach out and let me know if you agree with that, because after doing some reading, I would agree with it, and I take it as a compliment. So I hope you get a kick out of that. And also very exciting, this week, one of my favorite bands and a band that I've become good friends with is releasing their debut full-length album. You have heard previous guests, previous members on the show a few weeks ago. And this week, my guest on the show is Ryan Beebe, the vocalist and bass player for the Philadelphia pop-punk band Goalkeeper, who are going to be releasing their debut full-length album, I Wish I Met You Sooner. It's going to be available everywhere you get your music on this Friday, October 28th. They're doing a pre-order for the vinyl version right now that you can go to goalkeeperband.com if you want to get in on that. Folks, if you enjoy pop-punk, any sort of like heartfelt guitar music, this album is going to blow your minds, because I was fortunate enough to get to hear it early, and I really, really loved it, and I look forward to seeing people's reactions to it. And I got to chat again with Ryan, who I always feel kind of a rapport with, being that we are both the bassist and we're both the bassists and singers in our bands, and we got into talking about doo-wop music and old country music. And of course, given the news that Tom DeLonge is back in Blink-182, we could not escape some Blink-182 talk. So this is a really fun episode, and I hope you guys check out Goalkeeper's new album when it comes out this Friday, October 28th. Or if you're listening to this later, check it out now, because it's really good. And if you're listening to this before winter of 2022, Goalkeeper playing Fest. So if you're going to Fest, make sure you check that out as well. And if you enjoy this and want to find out more about me, you can go to awesomedisaster.com. That has links to all of my social media, our Patreon, the merch shop, everything related to me. And if you hear this and if you are looking for a way to support the show, non-monetarily speaking, one thing that if you guys could help me out with, if you listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, if you could leave a 5-star rating and write a positive review, that helps boost the show in the algorithm. And if you are on Stitcher, you can give the show a follow. And on Spotify, you can follow the show as well and also click the notifications button so that you'll be alerted when I put out new episodes. I put out episodes every Monday. And this is the thing that I make the most, that brings me the most satisfaction. So I hope that you enjoy it. And that's it. Let's get into today's chat with bassist, vocalist, and goalkeeper Ryan Beebe. I'm looking forward to this one because out of all the members of your band, I feel like we get to chat the least when we do shows through New York, because you and I are always like so busy with like something happening, like all the external stuff that happens after you rip a 6 set, you know?
Yeah, right, exactly.
But I'm excited to chat with you, man. I don't know if Mark told you, but I have heard the whole record, and I fucking love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like even outside of like us knowing each other, I just really, really love it, and I can't wait to hear other people's reactions to it, dude.
Oh, dope. But no, I'm really glad for you to say that, because like honestly, like we have put so much work into this, and some of the songs of the album are very personal for me, so it's like very good to finally like get that stuff out, and you know, I'm super excited to see what everybody thinks about it, you know.
Oh, totally. There's this sort of like kind of that nervous anticipation before like you release something, especially something if you're putting like your heart and soul into it, like really putting yourself out there. There's like a kind of nervous feeling. But I remember like from the second, because I was so excited the last time you played, I got to hear a new song. I think you played Sooner at that last Sovereign show, and I was like, oh, if this is the direction that it's going, this is going to be super kick ass.
Yeah.
I would love to ask you a little bit about kind of what the writing process was for these songs. And correct me if I'm wrong, do you write all of the lyrics for Goalkeeper, or do you and Cody like co-write on stuff?
So at this point in the band, Cody and I do mostly collaboration. So like one of us will write something at home, we'll bring it to the practice space, and then, you know, we let the other one kind of massage it into something that feels a little bit more like it's best for the three of us, you know? And so that's kind of how it starts. But I mean, as far as the writing process for this record is concerned, we started out actually back when Life in Slow Motion was about to release, and we realized that, you know, at that point in time, the pandemic was in full swing. We had no idea when or what we were going to do, you know, and one of the fundamental things our band is based on is like playing shows. Like we want to play the biggest shows we possibly can. And so with that basically non-existent, with no chance of knowing at that point in time when it was going to end, we decided to go right back into the practice space and start practicing and like try to like work on some new stuff. And I actually think that, if I'm not mistaken, we had either Car Wreck or Sooner right around when Happy came out, which is kind of funny. So like some of the songs have been, you know, upwards of 2 years in the making, you know, finally, you know, coming out. Yeah, overall, like I drew a lot of influence from, like I always wanted to write. I was like really inspired by like, it's gonna sound really corny, but like doo-wop. Like I'm a huge doo-wop fan, and like, and also like a little bit of country, and obviously like the pop punk that had been coming out at the time. And like I just really wanted to write like romantic, lonesome music in a way, which doesn't really,
Yeah.
I don't think, relate to the record that much. But like, there's a few, like, basically what I thought of was like, okay, like, I've always wanted to write songs about summer love because I'm from a shore town. So that was like my brand of the lonesome kind of weird love thing. And, uh, and so like that's what I ended up doing. Like that's what Sooner is essentially straight up about. Summer love, and I mean, he even says it in the chorus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like all the other songs kind of revolve around it in the sense of like they're like ups and downs of like a really intense relationship or love that you had for a short period of time, whether it's good or bad. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of the headspace that I was in, writing the music. And obviously, like, I wasn't the only songwriter. Cody brought a few to the table, and Mark definitely helped us iron out ideas while we were coming up with them. So and then we just put out Lost Reality, the music video for
Uh-huh.
it. And that's actually one that we co-wrote with Nick from Man Overboard, and he features on it. And it was so cool because like I actually have pictures from Warped Tour of me posing with Nick, and then like here we are, like he's on like a vocal feature on one of our songs, and that's so cool. But I don't know if you got this vibe, but like as soon as I heard his voice on that song, I was like, took me right back to like core like Man Overboard music, and I don't know, it just struck like a really awesome chord for me. So I'm really stoked that he was able to be a part of it. And then some of the music we co-produced was co-produced by our longtime producer Kevin Mahoney, originally from
Mhm.
Hit the Lights. Now he's playing in Joywave, and having Kev in the studio to help us kind of massage songs and stuff, it just really is like the best thing ever. So like as far as how did a lot of this stuff come about and what's the story, like, yeah, that's about it in a nutshell.
Uh-huh. I I dig it, man. So essentially like this is like Sooner is like you're John Travolta on
Hmm.
like the bleachers in Greece, and this is
Right.
your take on like that vibe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it sort of makes total sense. Like, um, because I've always sort of when I first heard like the studio version of Sooner, and I think I told Mark and Cody this also. There's a certain sort of like wistfulness to it, and I mean this as a compliment. Like,
Hmm.
there's like I felt like a Menzinger's kind of influence to
Hmm.
that song, and yeah, the same way it kind of gave me that same kind of feeling that I got when I watched this movie Diner, which is set in Baltimore in the
Hmm.
50s and
Hmm.
is like a similar kind of coming of age movie.
Yeah.
Um
My big movie is American Graffiti.
yeah, yeah.
George Lucas's first film, and also I think Harrison Ford's first film. But it's just like high schoolers, in the late or in the early '60s, getting ready to go to college. Um, but just just something like that. Like I've always been inspired by that. Just because like growing up like around here, it's just such a different vibe, especially like when May hits. I mean, everybody gets excited for summer, but like it's just different when you're like here and like the energy starts to come up, And so like,
Mhm.
um, and it's funny that you mentioned the Men Singers because I like to say that like we took the Men Singers and Blank and then we put them together and wrote Ocean Avenue, and that's kind of like what I feel like is the new record.
Oh, absolutely. Like I love the way it has everything I love about your band as far as like pop punk kind of bangers, and then I love where you guys like allow yourselves to stretch.
Hmm.
And I want to get into that in a little bit. I am curious, like as far as like so we're in the middle of the pandemic, like what and your head's spaces for like romantic, lonesome, lonely music. Like I'm
Hmm.
curious, like what was going on in your life at that time that maybe made you kind of feel that way. Like how was
Yeah.
your pandemic experience? Did
My
you like
pandemic,
freak out like maybe I did?
my pandemic experience started off great. I had like a month off of paid work, which was dope, and I literally just watched Mad Men and drank whiskey like the whole time. Um, and
That's the show to
then,
drink whiskey to.
right, exactly. And then like, um, a few, like once we really got into it, like I realized that I was going to have, I mean, I was very fortunate because I was able to get paid, throughout the whole thing. So I wasn't like scrounging for money, but like I definitely wanted to try to continue to make money or not really sit on my butt. So um, I was doing a lot of work. Like I was helping my buddy power wash houses, stuff that was like pandemic friendly, I guess. And
Yeah.
I kind of got to a point where like the depression started to just kind of set in, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that like you know I'm 32, going on 33 at the end of the year, and a lot of people have expectations for that kind of thing. Like, oh, you're not married, oh, you're not like starting your family or whatever. And like for me, I want to do that at some point down the line, but like it was one of those things that like I think I started to kind of realize how lonely I was,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of, and then with the magnifying glass of seeing everybody at like hang out during summertime, it's kind of like one of those things where you're like, wow, I'm feeling really lonely right now. And
Uh-huh.
so like, and like I started to kind of do a deep dive on like some older country music like Hank Williams, and I mean all of
Mm-hmm.
his songs are just like lonesome cowboy music. And one of the things I like about doo-wop is like people, they think like, oh, it's like corny like 50s music, and it's like it's not really. It's actually really sad. Like a lot
Mm-hmm.
of it's kind of like the original emo music if you like think about it in a certain way. And so like I just started thinking about that, and I thought about like what Goalkeeper was doing and how pop punk kind of is adjacent of doo-wop and that sort of thing, and even country to that extent. Like, how do you build like a song? That's kind of like
Uh-huh.
they're similar with different flares and different like calling signs. Like instead of doing like acoustic guitar, you do electric guitar, and instead of doing like full
Mm-hmm.
chords, you do power chords or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like I started thinking about that and started thinking about like you know how I can use some of these like themes and put them into like our music. And I mean, I wouldn't really say that a lot of it sounds like doo-wop or country, but like a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
way I was thinking about the music was like through that, like just like cutting it back to like my original influences. Like I was listening to a lot of like early pop punk too, a lot of Blink. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So, and Men Singers, obviously. Actually, On Exile, or wait, the new Men Singers album, that and After the Party
Yeah.
were just like on repeat. So like that's kind of where my brain was the whole time.
Uh-huh. Oh, dude, I'm vibing so hard with you now. I think
Mhm.
we've talked a bit before about I think the phrase country is farm emo
Right, right, right.
on our last chat. So and I've the same way punk is three chords in the truth, like country is
Hmm.
I think the absolutely the same way, especially when you get into that older stuff in the or I'm a big fan of this guy Ryan Bingham, who
Hmm.
wrote a lot of the music for that movie Crazy Heart that Jeff
Okay.
Bridges was in.
Oh, okay.
Uh, and he has a similar kind of like you can just he sounds like he's been like walking along a road in Texas his whole life.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And to think of doo wop in like 50s rock specifically, I vibe absolutely with that because those chord progressions are like the begin you find that sort of I don't know if it's 1564 or like 1465 or something like that, but you find that all over that music, and you find it all over pop punk as well. When that song that Bright Ugly close our set with, that sort of like don't count.
Hmm.
I was trying to write like a 50s song in the
Mm.
verses.
Hmm.
Is I was totally going for that. And the other thing I think about when I think of doo-wop and kind of drawing the thread to pop punk is like the use of vocal harmony.
Right.
Like
Yeah, vocals are so important, like vocal harmony. That's almost more important. I mean, especially if you listen to like a lot of the earlier stuff, like the drums aren't even there. It's really just like either like a snare or like a bass drum or something, and everything. It's like the guitars are making like the beat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the guitars are doing the percussive stuff. Maybe you get like someone with those like sticks, the jazz brushes. You can go like,
Right.
and the other thing about I love about that music is like again do some kind of like modern connections is like they were going crazy with reverb back in the
Yes.
day.
Yes. Yes. That's actually something that I've wanted to try to experiment more with in future records because I think that that's like something like everybody has like super crisp, clear vocals minus like, the trash rock stuff. So like I
Uh-huh.
want to try to see like, if there's something there. You know what I mean? Like I definitely want to play with that. But like my dad runs a radio station. It's always been like classic hits, oldies stuff. And
Mm.
hence why I'm into all this stuff. And like they purposely put the reverb up on their mics a lot more than a normal radio station just so they can have that effect.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, yeah, it definitely like it creates a mood and an atmosphere, like especially those kind of like or that song like I only have eyes
Hmm.
for you. It sounds like they were in it sounds like he's singing through an amp that has been mic'd up and then they took the reverb and were just like, let's just crank it to 10 and
Yeah.
let's put it on everything.
Yeah, and that song has such a like an atmospheric kind of feel to it. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like that's a great example of that.
Oh yeah, it's the kind of music like you hear it and like it definitely it can take you to either kind of like a peaceful place or like sort of like if you were playing like BioShock or some
Right.
sort of
Yeah.
like the beginning of a horror movie
Yeah.
almost.
I listened to or I played Fallout 3 and 4 and New Vegas all with the radio on. So like that's the same deal.
Awesome. So okay, so you're in the so you're in the pandemic. The new songs are starting to come about, and I'd love to get your take on this as well because I really liked the acoustic version of Black and Blue. Like the arrangement, I think is awesome. I think you can tell because whenever we play, I get like right up front and start and
Hmm.
shout it at you.
Yeah, which I always
Sort of my
love.
equivalent. Oh yeah, because like I really feel like I liked it. I like the full band version, but I feel like listening to the acoustic version, I was able to like really hear and pay attention to the lyrics more than the full band version. And
Right.
that line, "Life is long distance and I'm out of shape." Like, oh,
Yeah.
that just hits me so hard. Um,
Yeah, but that's one of my favorite lines we ever wrote by
it
far. Black and
it's
Blue is
so
actually
good.
like it didn't stream as well as I thought it was going to, but like it's a low key heater. Like I'm glad you appreciate that song.
I sure do, and I especially love, and I'd love to talk a little bit about like the arranging of the acoustic version because I love acoustic songs that have that have bass and drums.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean as far as the arrangement's concerned with Black and Blue Reimagined, I mean we just tried to like well, first, Cody wanted to be part of it. So, like, we had to we had to kind of like figure out how we were going to have him in there. And at that point, we were like, okay, well, this has definitely got to be a more like up tempo version, like almost not country, but like more like active acoustic kind of. And
Hmm.
so that's when I was like, all right, well, I'll just play something simple on the bass. Like I didn't go nuts. Like I just kind of played what I play, but a little more subdued. And then Mark, he knows how to make those chords sound huge. So I would give a lot of credit to Mark really when it comes to like making the sound the way it sounds because definitely like the way the guitar blends itself into everything else. I think it sounds great. And Cody, I mean, like I think the drums that we added ended up being just right. I don't think we overdid it. I don't think it's like a pop punk song with like acoustic guitar. It's like straight up like a reimagined thing. And then adding like one thing that I wasn't expecting to have such like a big impact was the violin that we added to it.
Hmm.
And that really kind of gave it that atmospheric lift I think it needed.
Oh yeah, that violin like it adds just an like it reinforces like the emotion of that song that's already there and just
Hmm.
like integrating that into what you guys are playing, I think really takes that particular version like over the top. Absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And yeah, and to your point, like the way the drums are kind of integrated in that, like it's not front bottoms esque, like it's not like
Mm-hmm.
super driving, like it still retains the feel of
Mm-hmm.
like a briskly strummed acoustic song, but it just has the full band in
Exactly.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, who are we without Cody's drumming? Like that's a big thing too. And Cody's smile.
Oh my god! And the thing I told him, like, just the like, hey, let's all share my kit. We'll just swap out the snare and kick pedal, like,
Hmm.
just like a prince among men. That guy
Yeah.
for
No,
for
he
for that.
really. I'm very fortunate to be in a band with both my bandmates. They're both amazing people.
That's that they most certainly are.
Hmm.
When it comes to the approach to bass for the new record, um, did you find yourself having to like push yourself outside your comfort zone in terms of bass playing for these new songs? I was curious how the approach to I Wish You Met
Yeah.
You Sooner compares to like Life in Slow Motion or your earlier stuff.
Yeah. If anything, I think I just tried to simplify it so I could sing over it.
Uh-huh.
Like that was one of the things that I was like really conscious of um, with this record. But there are a few where we get a little crazy, and for me, like I know how to write like the basic stuff. Like I actually had a lot of help from Nick in the studio, like kind of like adding a few flares here and there.
Mhm.
And ultimately, it rocked. So I can't take all the credit for every single bass line in there, but like as far as like the meat and potatoes of it, like my main goal was to really just accent whatever Mark was playing and just keep the rhythm like tight with Cody, because I think one thing that is a little different is there's a few songs on the record that we all need to be hitting on the same beat. You know what I mean? Like it's
Mhm.
much more a timing record than I think it is a complexity thing. Because I'm never ever trying to do anything new. Like I'm just trying to do like Mark Hoppus. Like literally, I walk in and they're like, "What do you want your bass to sound like?" Mark Hoppus. Okay, cool. Like that's basically it. So that was my approach.
Mhm. No, that makes total sense. And yet because like that is like the bass tone for this music. Like that
Yeah.
is just such like a killer a killer sound that I've been trying to unpack cuz and someone on the internet could probably correct me on this, and I'd love to know like how you set your settings like
Hmm.
when you play live, because it almost sounds like Hop is like he's cranking like the actual bass part down, like his bass tone's like a very mid range bright sounding
Yeah.
tone compared to like a rounder warmer bass tone.
Yeah. I've always kind of described it as like distortion without being dirty. Like it's like very buzzy. Um, and so the way I achieve that is using a Sans amp. And like
Mm-hmm.
everybody I've talked to about this, they all say like you got to have a Sans amp. And so I went out, got myself a Sans amp, and that's really what carries, I think, the weight of the tone that I use. Um, on the record, I think that's all we used. I don't think we put anything on it as far as like other kind of mixers or anything, or distortions or anything. On previous records, we used the dark glass pedals, which
Mm-hmm.
are great, but I don't have one personally. So, with this one, um, like or with like the tone that we have, like I use like the Fender P bass with quarter pounders in it, and
Mm-hmm.
then the Sans amp. It's just like I just finally got it dialed in. It's like gain and presence. Like presence is really what gives it that thing. Because I mean, I'm not a gear nerd at all. So like whatever I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying could be complete bullshit. Just as a, just putting that out there. But like, I feel like the presence gives it that like ringiness that Mark Hoppus has. Whereas like you don't want it to be like overly distorted. So you don't necessarily want to push the
Yeah.
gain all the way, but you want it to be like almost like oversensitive, kind of like when we were talking about the reverb on the mic. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, theirs were always like kind of almost like super hot. You know what I mean? That's kind of the way I
Yeah.
look at it.
Yeah, like you just crank it as much as you can so that
Hmm.
it's like almost distorting on its own.
Right,
Um
right.
yeah. No, I agree. No, I agree with you. That Sansamp, I actually like talked Aaron from What Makes Sense into getting one.
Mm. Oh, did you
Uh
really?
I did
Wow.
cuz we when we would play with them a few times I would say you really got to get one of these. You just click one button and you sound better than you have any business of sounding.
Right,
uh
right, right. And he's got a grabber, so those things are going to
uh-huh.
sound gnarly through a Sans amp.
Yeah, like super like you're just getting punched by
Right.
the bass, which is like my favorite kind of bass sound. I don't love bass that sounds like bass, like old, like round, warm
Yeah.
bass
Y-
guitar. I
Yeah.
like super mid rangey.
Yeah, same. I like what was I just listening to the other day? I forget what it was, but it was like some heavy, you know, it was probably like heavy metal from like the 70s or something. It was just very like boop, 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 instead of like, you
Uh
know,
huh.
like really like jangly and like buzzy, you know what I mean? Like that's what I really liked about it. And I mean, I'm very open with the fact that like, you know, I'm not necessarily a great player. I just know how to play bass, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And
Yeah.
my main goal is I started as a guitarist, and my main goal when I play bass is just to really to set the rhythm set, like basically be the rhythm guitar, but playing bass. So, and because
Mm-hmm.
Mark likes to Mark, the way Mark plays his guitar, he's able to kind of like stretch it so he can play like bigger chords that have like higher notes to it. So as
Yeah.
long as I'm like solidifying that bottom, like he really like, you know, comes in on the top, and it just sounds fucking huge.
Oh, 100%. And I think especially like that the you've gotten a huge sound
Hmm.
on the new stuff. Specifically, one the song that grabbed me the most on my first listen through. I'd love to talk about a little bit more. And this is if if you want me to wait for the record to actually come out, that's fine too.
No, go ahead.
But
Yeah, it's coming out next week. You'll be fine.
um, talk about is a banger.
Yeah.
The chorus of that song, I was like dancing around in this room, jamming out to that.
Oh
What
wow.
can you tell me about the writing of that song?
So this one has a funny one. I wrote this uh, during the summer, or like maybe fall time, and I actually wrote it as a slow song. And I was gonna hide it and keep it for like a solo thing. But I liked it so much that I couldn't not share with the guys.
Uh huh.
And they were like, "This is Goalkeeper song, man. Like, you now showed it, it's ours now." I was like, "Okay, well, it has to be a slow song." Cody was like, "No, it's gonna be a fast song." And I was like, "Well, all right. Well, it's gotta be like more like soft." And Mark was like, "No, it's gonna be heavy as fuck." So we were like, "Okay." So basically, like what started off as like a slow ballad turned into like, you know, a
Uh huh.
really punchy, driving kind of dark, but kind of not, you know, pop punk song.
Uh huh.
And that one was very close to being one of the three singles that we put out, like with a music video. So, I mean, it probably missed by like a point, you know, it was
Oh yeah.
very close.
Yeah. Mark was telling me that because I remember like I was not gonna like tell him like, oh, I think this should be a single. This should be a single. But
Yeah.
I told him I was like, that song is fucking great. Please, cause I'm gonna be singing that one at the next New
Yeah.
York show.
Yeah.
um, really dug I really dug that one. So when it comes into like working with because you worked with Nick from Man Overboard on this album, and then you also worked did some songwriting stuff with um Casey from the Wonder Years.
Mm.
I'm curious, working with those guys, what what did was there something like new you learned about the craft of songwriting in terms of working with either of them on this album?
Um, it was cool to work with them and see how they work. Like, this is like the fourth or fifth person we've done like a straight up like co-write sesh with, and Nick's was really cool because we brought like a riff, and then that riff turned into Lost Reality. So like the riff we play basically the whole time, like
Uh-huh.
that riff was the one we brought in, and then like he kind of helped guide us through like the ups and downs of how the song should kind of play, and I think it came out really good. And one of the benefits for Nick that was really good for us is that was the first time that we worked with somebody who was like originally a drummer and like
Uh-huh.
still plays drums like a lot. And so like Cody felt more at home talking to him than he had to previous songwriters because like, we were all live in the studio. We weren't like sitting with acoustic guitars. Like we were all live in the studio. And so like Nick would be like, okay, and they're like blah 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 blah. And then he would be like, oh, okay, blah 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 blah,
Uh-huh.
and so that was really cool. And then but like as far as like, you know, learning about songwriting, Casey from the Wonder Years really gave us some great tips. And really, I can boil it down to like one main thing, which is like, if you're songwriting, think about whatever the concept of the song is or whatever you want the song to be about, and then think about every aspect of that scene, right? Like create a scene and then like think about every little thing in the scene, and then like that actually helps you draw more like descriptive characteristics for you to call on for like lyrics and stuff. So like for example, I'm sitting in my kitchen right now, I could be like, we had tiny pumpkins on the table because it's Halloween, like that,
Uh-huh.
that we picked at like whatever. Like you can like dive into those little side stories that are all within the same picture. Stuff like that. And so um, like that, I definitely is going to be something that we take with us for the next record for sure.
Amazing. Almost like it's almost like a novelist's approach to like description. Like I think
Right.
about like if you're reading like a really good like fiction novel, the writer will
Hmm.
be like, they'll describe like the room and like you say there were pumpkins from a season not too distant but not too far away,
Right.
or something like that. Like
Yeah.
really put the listener into that space for sure.
Exactly. And that like I also think like it's those kinds of things that like make people connect with it because like they know like what some of those descriptors might be, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
like one of my favorite things that always gets me like going is like whenever I smell like campfire or like campfire wood or whatever, like
Uh-huh.
like imagine putting that into like a song and like talking about how like you know, you and your friends came to the woods one time. I don't know, something goofy like that. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
not really, my brain isn't really in writing mode right now. But like basically creating a scene of whatever your concept is, and then trying to find like the littlest details to kind of pull like cool stuff from, And you can definitely
Mm-hmm.
hear that on the new Wonder Years record if you've listened to it or not.
Yes, I have, and
Yeah.
I think it's my favorite. It's my favorite Wonder Years album since Greatest Generation.
Yes,
Like
100%.
not to discount the albums they did in between, but this one just like
Yeah.
grabs me in a certain way. Like that sense of because I'm not too dissimilar. Like the second that first little snap of cold hits,
Hmm.
and there's that kind of like leaf smell in the in
Yeah.
the air, I just automatically have to put on hoodie weather. It's like
Right. Right.
that's like the beginning of the fall season for me. The same way like when summertime hits, gotta play Sell Out by Real Big Fish. Gotta
Oh
just
yeah, there you go.
integrate like there's definitely like
Yeah.
um music for like different like scenes or like something I described to my friend Thea who has come to a few of our shows. I described Knuckle Puck to her as well they're sort of like Newfound Glory but for fall.
Right. Yeah, basically. That's good. I like that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's pop punk for where you want to when you want to wear mittens.
right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, them and real friends. And yeah, no, that's hilarious.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, that's so fascinating. The other thing I
Mhm.
really like, as far as in terms of the news stuff, it's almost like you guys give like the fans like I'll include myself amongst the fans. Um, there's definitely like that classic like goalkeeper sound, like these driving heavy pop punk songs with like lyrics that are kind of pretty emotionally mature,
Mhm.
actually. And this is always a compliment I've had for you guys. And then I love the way you kind of let yourselves stretch. Like there's some very like in the second half, like very like cinematic elements
Mhm.
in some of the later songs, like in like the little interludes, like that little piano coda at
Yeah.
the
At the end
um
of Half In, Half Out.
yes,
Yeah.
uh really like caught me off guard, like really hits in like an emotional place, that
Yeah.
part of that song.
Well, that song specifically is very emotional, and so like, that one I would say is probably like the most like that's the one we co-wrote with Casey, and
Mm-hmm.
it's also one that I think we tried to push ourselves as far as like what else can we do, and I think like that one really is a great example of like how extreme, like how dark we can get, because I mean
Mm-hmm.
we always like joke around that we're like the fun party band or whatever, but like Blink had songs like Adam's Song on the same record. They had like What's My Age Again. So like
Yeah.
it's like one of those things that like you know um like you can have, and then that was another thing I was thinking about, like how Blink was able to have those kinds of like various or varying different like degrees of like how heavy a song can be. Um, and so like that, I would probably consider that to be the heaviest song on the record, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly cinematically and production wise, like there's piano on that. I think they added timpanis to it. Like there's a whole, there's a lot of
Oh
like
wow.
dynamics that we added to that one that really came out. And I love that little piano thing at the end. Like I always think of it as like select your character music, like you're
I
Skyrim building your character.
Yeah, I could see that. Or the other thing it made me think of is there's an anime I like called March Comes Like a Lion, which is about a sad chess player essentially.
Mm,
Um, well, it's shogi, but Japanese chess, and it's lots of like very mellow, emotional piano while he internal monologues.
okay.
And there's
Yeah.
like shots of like Tokyo. So
Hmm.
it sort of like made me feel like that, like sort of like like anime opening theme or closing theme.
Oh,
And I
there
mean
you
that
go.
in like and I mean that in like I really like it, that kind
Yeah.
of way.
Oh, I get that. I mean, I'm not as well versed in animes, but I do know how like the opening music is usually like 80s hair metal, and then like the ending is usually like a pop piano, like somber kind of thing. Um, like I totally get what you're coming from.
Yeah, lots of shots of like spiky haired characters like panning really quick and like looking out into the distance.
Right,
And
yeah.
it's just very like epic, but also like very like poignant at the same time.
Yeah.
Is what I think of that song. And yeah, that's kind of like an interesting point, like to kind of bring it around to Blink, because they haven't been in the news recently for anything.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
um, it's I always that was part of what drew me to them also is like they could both sides of like you think of like those like the drama masks, like there's the smiling one and the
Right.
frowning one, and they were both that they wrote like uh like the same album had like even just a little like the bonus tracks of Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. You'd have like a song about like you fucked up my life and a really poignant line like I'm kicking out fiercely at the world around me.
Uh-huh.
On the same album where they would sing I want to fuck a dog in the ass.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Um,
Like, and like I just love how they could do that. You know what I mean?
yeah, and it all kind of and it all sort of always makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
No,
know.
I mean, again, I think like it's one of the like I mean, now I'm really thinking about it. It's like, you know, Blink was always one of those like bands for like the funny like skater dudes, but like a lot of those funny skater dudes came from like broken homes and like it wasn't always sunshine, you know. So like you
Sure.
know sometimes you know there are heavier things that you got to talk about, you know, in order to have the full spectrum. You know, it might not be as realistic if everything's like sunshine and rainbows, you know.
Oh, totally. Like as well as a comedian, especially,
Oh right,
I know a lot of sad clowns that are yucking it up to hide some really dark pasts
right,
and
exactly.
dark experiences. So there's it's like na na's for a while, but then every now and then you gotta like the mask drops, and then you're just like a uh, story of a lonely guy,
Right,
or
yeah, yeah,
or like Adam's song for sure.
hmm yeah.
Yeah. Are you gonna go to their world tour next year?
I hope so. They're supposed to be playing a festival Memorial Day weekend here in Atlantic City.
Uh huh.
So it hasn't been announced yet, but like it's kind of been half announced. Like
Mm-hmm.
um, it's like there. So like I haven't been able to buy tickets yet, is what I'm getting at. But
Sure.
I am going to try to buy tickets for that when those become available because the closest other ones are like Hershey, PA, and that's like 3 hours from me. So
Uh huh.
like they're not really playing anywhere close except for that. So
Yeah. Exactly. Probably
either
might
that or
get
I'll
a.
have to Google like who like what city had the cheapest Ticketmaster tickets like as far
Uh
as
huh.
like demand and then fly there and hope that like
Right.
it's not
Right.
that bad.
Just hope maybe wait for like the dynamic pricing algorithm to die down a little bit,
Right, yeah.
or what you could also do, um, Barclays Center in Brooklyn. You know, you take the train up, and they are SeatGeek. They're not Ticketmaster,
Oh,
so
really?
you might be able to find something halfway decent there.
That wouldn't be a bad idea. Brooklyn, yeah, you could just take the train up. That wouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, that was where I saw them the last time they were in town with Skiba. I think it
Mm.
was them. It was them, A Day to Remember, and All Time Low. That was a good
I was
show.
at that show, but at in Philly, the Tweeter
Oh,
Center
nice.
or whatever it's called now.
Uh huh. Is that where like the 76ers play?
No, it's like the outdoor arena, or it's like the outdoor amphitheater. So
Ah,
like, are you
okay.
familiar with like the PNC Arts Center in
Yep.
Holmdel? Yeah.
I just saw Gaslight Anthem there this
Oh, okay,
weekend.
that's sick. We saw Gaslight Anthem at the Met in Philly. They were awesome.
Oh, so good.
But yeah, so imagine that, but in Philly, and a little bit bigger, I think.
Okay, very
Yeah,
cool.
it originally like when I first was growing up, it was called the Tweeter Center,
Uh
and
huh.
then like Tweeter, I forget what Tweeter even was like at this point, and I think it was like a music thing. But they like it's like a sponsored thing, and they haven't been able to keep the same sponsor for like so it's got like a million different names, and recently it's had like three name changes in like the last like 2 years. So I'm like I don't even know. I think it's called Freedom Mortgage Pavilion or something like that. But to me, it's just the Tweeter Center.
Yeah, for sure. Same way, like I feel like people in LA still probably call it the Staples Center instead of the crypto.com
Right,
arena
right, exactly.
or or what have you.
Yeah, the
Um,
crypto.com arena. Could you imagine? That's wild.
yeah, that because it's rough to say like, oh, because you know, touring and doing shows, like you develop a certain sort of like, and going to shows, you develop a certain sort of affinity for certain venues. Like I
Yeah,
love like going to shows at Webster Hall or Irving Plaza in New
yeah.
York, or the Electric Factory in Philly. Even though I last time I was there was a little sketchy, but worked out.
Yeah.
But it's just hard to have any kind of affinity for like something called like with like a tacky sponsor.
Right. Like one that doesn't like make a total like a lot of sense, unless it's like a legacy thing, right? Like Stable
Uh-huh.
Centers was there for how many years? Like you know, so but like yeah, like like actually how they changed Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was like Heinz Field for forever. And then they turned into like Acusure or whatever. It was like, what the fuck is this? It's not even from PA. It's from like Michigan. Like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't make any sense. But you know, people that own those places, they could just, whoever has the money, that's, I guess, who it's going to go to, right?
Yeah, I mean whatever keeps the team going, I suppose.
Yeah, right.
Um, yeah. Oh, yeah, because I think for the longest time the arena in downtown Baltimore was called, when I was in college, it was called the First Mariner Arena after the bank, and now I think
Mm,
it's the Royal Farms Arena or something. I think it might be in between
mm.
bases, but a really cool place that you guys are going to be playing at soon in Baltimore that went away and is now reopened, the Record Theater.
Yeah.
I love that place.
Oh,
I've
yeah?
seen, yeah, I saw, and to kind of bring this full circle, because I know you guys are playing some really kick-ass shows in the next couple of weeks and into the next year.
Yeah.
I saw Alistair open for Mest
Oh,
my
wow.
sophomore year of college at the Wrecker.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that
That's
was a
really
great show.
cool. Yeah, this is our first time playing there, and I've heard nothing but great things about it. Plus, it's going to be a sick show. Like us, Alistair, obviously, Driveways, and Eternal Boy. Like it's just a freaking had such a good lineup.
Yeah,
Oh, and
that.
again in May, I think is also on it.
Oh, nice. That
Hmm.
is so cool. That show's going to be amazing. And yeah, I have nothing but good things to say about the Wrecker, and as far as like the people who work there, the sound system.
Hmm.
Uh, my college band played like a matinee there,
Oh, that's cool.
and it was like the biggest deal to play like the local band matinee. So I was very
Right.
excited. I was up there. I was like, I'm on the same stage as Shinedown.
You're right. That's sick.
It's,
Yeah.
it's just like, I made it. I'm standing behind the barrel of a 45.
Right. Right. Exactly. That's great.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. And you guys are like, it, from what I can tell, so like you guys are hitting the road hard, it sounds like, in the next few weeks between like Fest and the uh tour for the new record.
Yeah, I just did the math. We're doing like almost 5,000 miles between like through the whole tour because we're doing down to Florida, and then we're going to be in Florida for a few days at Fest, and then we're going to go across the south to Texas. We're going to stop in New Orleans while we're there
Uh-huh.
because I think we have an off day, and then we're going to do like 4 or 5 dates in Texas. One of the cool places we're playing in Texas is actually it's Brownsville. Have you ever heard of Brownsville, Texas?
I have not.
So it's all the way at the bottom point of Texas, like the bottom, which
Uh-huh.
is crazy. Like you can literally like there's a I guess the Rio Grande River is right there. Like you can see Mexico across the border.
Wow.
So yeah, really excited to check that place out. And then shooting back up, we're doing St. Louis, Chicago, Ohio, and Pittsburgh. So
Oh,
got like
nice.
yeah, in Chicago we're opening up for Games We Play, who's a really poppin' pop punk band right now. So really pumped about
Awesome.
that.
Very cool. I have not heard of them. I'm gonna have to write this down.
Yeah,
Games we play.
Games We Play. Check out Deadbeat. That's my
Games we
favorite
play.
song.
Awesome. I will do that.
Yeah, he was. He we actually met him before he was Games We Play. He was the drummer of a band called Small Talks when they were touring with Can't Swim, and we opened that Can't Swim show in Philly.
Uh-huh.
And he ended up, going solo, doing his own thing, and popping off on TikTok. So
Mhm.
really stoked for him.
Very very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think you guys like, and also like a little bit like dipped your toes into the pop punk with trap beats vibe
yeah.
on one of the new songs, and I think you did excellently. I
Thank you.
thought that was, yeah, like that song like stuck, like I was like, hmm?
Yeah,
And then like it stands out as like a nice like in between in the two halves of the record, and I thought you did a really great job on that.
thanks. Yeah, like so that one was actually I had watched the Little Peep documentary on Netflix,
Uh-huh.
which I highly recommend to anybody who's a pop punk fan. Definitely check that out. Um, and I wasn't really expecting much from it, but what I realized is most of his beats were like trap beats with like or trap drums with like blink riffs. And
Uh-huh.
so I was like, in fact, I think one of his songs is literally lifted off of like a YouTube video that of Tom playing guitar. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, so we ended up I got super ripped and I was playing on Logic and I built the beat and I remember thinking like, oh, this is pretty cool, but then like I didn't really do anything with it until came recording time and I showed everybody and they're like, yeah, that has to be on it. And I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, we're gonna figure out a way to get that on there. And Cody actually wrote the lyrics to it and the flow.
Mm-hmm.
So I sing like most of the song, and then that feature we have on it is actually Cody. I'm sure you knew because
Yeah.
you know Cody, but like a lot of people don't realize that. So uh, we were thinking about like having it like goalkeeper featuring goalkeeper, or goalkeeper featuring drummer, or we've made Cody's rap name Mark with a K, like the whole thing like Mark with a K
Uh-huh.
because Mark spells his name with a C.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, so that like I'm really stoked about how that one came out. Good, like I like it, especially where it's at because it's a good like interlude between like the two halves of the record. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt the same way. It sort of acts as like a break in between the two halves of the album. I thought that was excellent placement
Yeah,
as far as like an arranging standpoint, because I nerd out on set lists. Like
yeah,
I create all of Bright Ugly set lists, so I'm just like, no, this song should go after this one because it's
yeah,
in the same key as that one, and it'll flow into that one
yeah.
nicely.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. I look at it from more of just like a mood perspective because I don't want it to be either like up and down, up and down, up and down, or like
Mm-hmm.
too like low and then like jump to like a pop song and you know what I mean? Like I don't like
Sure.
those like janky like changes unless we're going for that. So with this record, I feel like the way that we laid it out, it's a nice kind of balance to the whole thing. You don't get too way down and you don't necessarily get too like up either. So it's a good like kind of balance through the whole time.
Oh yeah, totally. It's like you ramp up just enough to where you need a little break, and then you ramp up more, and then
Yeah.
you keep going. Um, this is not entirely related, but one of my something that always sticks in my head, like when I'm putting together like track lists and stuff, is I remember here watching an interview with the band LA Guns on VH1 back in
Okay.
the day, and they're like, you always put the ballad on the third cut of the album. You always put it on the
Yeah.
third, fourth song you make. That's where you stick the
Yeah.
ballad. So
Yeah.
that's
I could definitely see that. I don't know if we did that though. The threes talk about. I mean, maybe. I always
I
look
think
at it
I
like
think.
I look at it like a baseball lineup, like a batting lineup. Like
Oh,
you know,
interesting.
your best song should be like the 3 or 4 spot, and then like your top hitters will be like 1 and 2, and then
Mm-hmm.
like your pitcher's number 9 or number 9, number 10. Which like for us we actually have like a closing track on it, so that
Mm-hmm.
was like really nice to fit in there. So that's kind of the way I looked at it. Although yeah, and I think the lineup's pretty strong. There was only like one song I think that I wasn't like in love with when we finished it, but like now it's like I love them all. Like I've really grown to really like it.
Oh yeah, it's a no skip
Yeah.
album. Like every song on it is an absolute banger. Just to ask you about touring a little bit. I know you got to get going soon. Just had a few
Yep.
more practical things I wanted to ask just for my own band.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um, uh, in terms of touring, what is something you would tell a band that hasn't done a ton of touring that is looking to? What would you tell that band that you wish you knew?
Um. So, well, the pillars of good touring, and like we started off with pretty good knowledge, but like what I would say for somebody just starting out, there's two really main things. One is reliable transportation that you might be able to sleep in.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like, and the reliable part is way more important than the sleeping in part because you could always like figure it out. But like, you don't want to be breaking down on the road, especially when you have like thousands of dollars worth of gear in your vehicle.
Yeah.
So like making sure that like everything's taken care of before you leave, uh, and you get it serviced and everything, like that's super important. And then to like add on to that, make sure that your tour routing isn't ridiculous. So one thing that we're actually really fortunate about living on the East Coast is that there's many metropolitan cities within a few hours drive, of where we're at. Like same with you in Brooklyn, us in
Mm-hmm.
Philly. Pardon me. And so what we try to do is we try to like either line it up. So like if we're doing a weekender, we'll do like say Boston, Brooklyn, Boston, Brooklyn, Philly, or like Long Island, Brooklyn, Philly. Like so you're like coming back, or it would actually be Brooklyn, Long Island, Philly. But like so you're like basically only like between a 4 and 6 hour drive really from your next venue. And
Mm-hmm.
I that's really important because you really don't want to do a ton of driving after a show, and sometimes you're going to have to do it just depending on what your tour situation is. Like, we know people who had other booking agents book their tour, and like they're going from like Atlanta to Philly in one day, and
Ugh.
it's like, are you kidding me? That's like ridiculous. Like it's just a haul. Like I don't mind driving, but like if I'm stuck, like it almost gets nerve wracking because like you don't know, like whether you're gonna hit traffic or whether you're gonna have to go through like a different route or something like that. So like definitely trying to keep everything between like a 3 to 6 hour drive, as close to that as possible. Now, if you're on the West Coast or in the Midwest, it's a little different, but like, I'm sure people out in those markets know like the bigger suburbs that you can hit that might have scenes rather than like, you know, going from like Chicago to Minneapolis, down to like,
Yeah.
or like, St. Louis to whatever. So like, and then, West Coast, it is what it is. You just gotta kind of do it. But like, as far as like us, like on the East Coast, that's one of the reasons why I think we're really fortunate. So just trying to keep it as close distance as possible because like I said, until you're ready to start going like longer distances, you want to
Yeah.
focus on what's close and what you can hit on a more regular basis versus like, you know, like we're just playing Texas for the first time and we've been a band for 6 years and we never try to push Texas because we knew we could only really get there like once a year, if that. You know what I mean? Same thing with like West
Yeah.
Coast. You're like it takes 2 days just to get out there. You know what I mean? So just
Yeah.
keep it simple. You know what I mean? And then like keep like broadening your radius as you feel like you can. Or
Totally.
unless you get a really great show opportunity. That's the only other thing. But also like I say that we had a chance like to play a big show in North Carolina, and then the next day we were playing a show in Philly. We were opening up for Real Friends, so like we ended up making that drive overnight, and like that was one of the worst drives ever because we literally drove like 7 hours overnight, and like you don't want to push it when you're sleeping. You know what I mean? Like or when you're
Yeah.
like when you should be sleeping. Like so that's why our rules are like when we're setting up the tour, make sure it's like within a close range, and then like uh, after the show, depending on whether we have like a place to stay or not, we're only driving like within an hour or two max
Uh
to
huh.
wherever we're sleeping because like we don't want to be on the road for multiple hours, especially like when like maybe we had a couple drinks after the set or like whatever. Like you don't want to push it. So like
Sure.
that's why like we just try to be as conservative and safe as possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Have you guys ever had to do that thing where you crash in a Walmart parking lot like a couple
Oh,
hours
all
out
the
of
time.
the? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we actually for us it's Planet Fitness.
Ah,
So
Planet
yeah,
Fitness.
that's actually a life hack. If you go to the gym, get yourself a Planet Fitness Black Card. It's like $25 a month. it's kind of crazy if you're not using it all the time. But when you're on tour, you can park in most Planet Fitness parking lots overnight, and you can use the black card to get in and shower, and also use all the other like amenities that they have. So you can shower, you can work out. They have massage tables if you want to use them. They have like other things that, if you want to use them. But like, and the other benefit too is if you're on tour with people who don't have Planet Fitness, you can bring in one up to one guest. So like you can bring them in if you want, if they want or whatever. And that's proven to be very valuable for us because like you definitely don't want to go more than like a day or two without showering in the tour van.
Oh no, definitely not.
Yeah.
That's excellent life hack.
Right. Yeah.
Right
Walmart
on.
also is good, but the thing about Walmart is not as many after the pandemic are 24 hours, and a
Hmm.
lot of them don't allow overnight parking anymore because they're not open 24 hours.
Right.
So like you just have to kind of look at it, and plus like most of the Walmart bathrooms I've ever been in have been pretty gross. So like uh Planet Fitness is always clean. So that's another benefit.
Yeah. That's been my experiences
Yeah.
as well. Yeah. Well, thanks, man. Thanks, man. Because I really want to in 2023 just my like very small goal I'm setting for myself musically is to play somewhere outside of where I live. If it's Philly or Boston, just
Yeah.
start like you said, get that circle
Yeah.
of places going.
Yeah, I mean, we
Um,
started out with Long Island, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh. Like, we knew we had really good connections in Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and we knew some people up in Long Island, and so we were like, all right, like these are going to be our first three. And then we added Brooklyn, and then we added like, uh, where else we add like Cleveland, Boston, Virginia Beach, like Richmond,
mhm.
and then like more recently we've been hitting like the Midwest, Chicago, Milwaukee, like Toledo, and oh, Rochester. Can't forget about Rochester. Love going up there. So like, and you just have to kind of like, but and the reason why you want to just keep it slow is because you really want to try to make an impact wherever you go. And if you're going to like all these different places, you kind of forget everybody's names and shit. So like, for you, like, yeah, going to like Philly, going to Boston, um, you know, Poughkeepsie, Rochester, or like, South, like, Asbury Park, great area for live
Uh-huh.
music. I think Bright Ugly would play really well there. Uh, Baltimore, like, there's definitely a lot of places within that area. Have you played all the boroughs yet?
Have we played all of the boroughs? I don't know if we have. We've played Queens, we've played Brooklyn, played Long Island. That was an interesting show.
Mm.
It was at some redneck bar with a portrait of Ronald Reagan behind the bar. It was
Oh,
a long
nice.
it was a long night
Yeah.
because it took a while to get out there. All the trains coming back were
Yeah.
stopping right before I had to get on there, so I didn't get home until like 3 in the morning.
Oh,
Um,
no.
I think the only places we still have to play, um, well, we still have to play Manhattan, Staten Island, and the Bronx. I'm not sure what the punk scene is like up in the Bronx. I think
Yeah.
there might be one. Staten Island, I know there's one. It's kind of its own little world out there,
Right.
and Manhattan. Manhattan's difficult because I don't want to do pay to plays,
Right. Right. Yeah.
and there's
Yeah.
a lot of that.
Yeah. I mean, we still haven't played Manhattan. I don't know if it's for necessarily that reason, but we had a show booked at Arlene's Grocery that fell through. So hopefully we'll get back to Manhattan. That'd be dope.
I remember
Um,
that because I had a ticket for that, and then when I heard you guys weren't there, I was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna go."
yeah. Yeah. No, I really want to play Manhattan. That'd be dope. And
Yeah,
obviously we
Arlene's
played
Grocery
like,
is cool.
yeah. And obviously like Brooklyn's dope. We love playing there.
Yeah, and I love Sovern. Mercury
Yeah.
Lounge is a good Manhattan venue. I see a lot of like cool up and coming artists play through there.
That's cool.
Well, dude, I know you gotta run, but it's great to get to chat with you again. Let's make sure we get all the correct dates out here. So, I wish I met you sooner comes out this Friday, which will be October 28th. What else can we plug before we get out here? You guys are hitting the road soon.
Yes. If you're hearing this like right when it comes out, we're going to be going on tour. We're going to be hitting Florida, Texas, and the Midwest. So check out our Facebook or actually our website. Our website has pretty much everything that you would want goalkeeper wise. So go to goalkeeperband.com. You can check out the pre-orders for our new album. It's actually our first ever vinyl. We've never pressed a vinyl with our music before. We tried to once and it fell through. But this one is for real and we're really excited for it. So go check that out. Also on our website, we've got our music videos. We've got 3 new music videos now for our new record, Sooner, Car Wreck, and Lost Reality. Definitely check those out. And then just below that, we have our shows with links for tickets and show times, or tickets and information and Facebook events and everything. So pretty much everything you need to know is on our website. So go check that out. And if you don't already, please go follow our socials. We're Goalkeeper Band on pretty much every social media. So go check that out.
Awesome. And if you're going to Fest, check out Goalkeeper at Fest.
Yes. We were playing Saturday night at like 7:30 at Lucy's, I believe. So, but check your Fest app if you're going. And we're all going to be at the Men Singers on the Impossible Past when they're playing that. That's also Friday night, but it's not till like 11.
Oh, yes. I got to get a ticket for the New York show for that tour.
Oh,
Thanks
yeah. Definitely get that.
Saying that.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thank you so much again. I always love chatting with you. I can't wait for the new album and for my goalkeeper tea to come.
Yeah.
So thanks again for doing the show. And I look forward to playing with you again next time you play New York.
Hell yeah. Well, dude, this is always a pleasure. Sorry it took so long to set up, but really appreciate you having me on again. And can't wait till next time.
Awesome. Looking forward to it, man. Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right, that is Ryan from Goalkeeper. Great dude. Could talk to him all day. Could talk to anybody in Goalkeeper all day because I really like spending time with those dudes and getting to see them play. And I think you would as well. If you are not a convert to the Goalkeeper yet, check out their new debut full-length album that will be out October 28th. It is called I Wish I Met You Sooner. It is available everywhere you get your music, and you can get in for the vinyl pre-order at goalkeeperband.com. That is goalkeeperband.com for the vinyl pre-order. And if you're listening to this before October 28th, you can check out Goalkeeper's most recent EP, Life in Slow Motion, and their singles and their newest singles, Sooner, Car Wreck, and Lost Reality. I'm a big fan of this band, and I want more people that are fans of this podcast to be fans of Goalkeeper as well. So check out goalkeeperband.com for everything related to them. And if you enjoyed this podcast and think you know a friend who would be interested in listening to this show as well, you can send them to awesomedisaster.com. For everything related to me, it has links to all of my social media. Twitter at Comic Will Carry, at Will Carry 23 on Instagram. Also has links if you want to send me a message. You can use the contact form. You can let me know if you want to like the show, if you want to book me for stand-up, or if you want to book Bright Ugly for a gig. And also, guys, if you want to check out my solo acoustic EP, Death of Sincerity, is out now wherever you get your music. So make sure you check that out as well. And you can also find links to both the Between Awesome Disaster merch shop as well as our Patreon, also at awesomedisaster.com. Everything related to me and what I do is at awesomedisaster.com. And I will see you guys next time between Awesome and Disaster. Stay safe, wear a mask, get boosted again, like I'm going to do, and stomp out fascism. Take care, everybody.